This video is going to walk you through completing the four-way agreement. To access the four-way agreement, from your homepage, you're going to click on My Site Placements. This will bring you to a screen looking like this. Now, one thing I want to point out is make sure you are in the correct environment up at the top here. If you started practicum in fall 2023 or after, you want to make sure you're in the Site Connect tab. If you started practicum before that, you may be in the On Ground tab, and that's okay. But anybody starting practicum in fall 23 or later must be in this Site Connect section. So your site is going to be listed here where mine says Test Site 1. And then you're going to click Site Details, which will show up here. You'll see that there's a nice little please read memo from your CTC team. And then there's a place for you to upload your approval to work at your site. And once those have both been complete, you can then start on number 2, which is your site supervisor details. You'll put in your supervisor's name, fill out these 2 pieces of paperwork, but this is what we're going to talk about today, which is option A and option B for the four-way agreement. So the four-way agreement is essentially an agreement between your agency or your practicum site and Pepperdine, outlining kind of the expectations for trainees. There are 4 people who need to sign, which is why it's called the four-way agreement. The first being you, the second being your supervisor, the third being your agency or clinical director, and the last being your campus CTC. Now I want to go over the difference really quick between option A and option B. Option A, you'll need to fill out every time you start at a new site during your time at Pepperdine. The four-way agreement will not be required when you're an associate, but it is super important to your time as a trainee. So when you're starting at a new site, please click option A to get your first supervisor connected to you. You'll notice that sometimes Tavera says, like it does here, primary supervisor or primary four-way agreement. Primary just means the same as your regular supervisor. So if you see that wording on Tavera, no need to get confused. It's just talking about whoever typically supervises you. And after you've already completed option A, let's say a few months down the line, you add a new supervisor. That's where you'll go and you'll now do option B. So option B requires only 3 signatures, yours, your supervisors, and the CTCs. You don't have to go through your agency or clinical director, hopefully making the process to fill this out a little bit simpler for you. So let's click into option A and see what this is all about. Again, with any document, please make sure you're reading every single thing. Don't just go off of what I'm saying, because everything that is listed out in this document is something that you are agreeing to abide by throughout the remainder of your time in the program. So it's really important that you understand it. So when you're ready, go ahead and click on Start. All right. So again, like I said, please make sure you read everything in thorough detail. At the beginning here will just be a space for you to fill out some of your own information and your agency's information, such as what your site's called, where they're located, where you're located. You'll also find information down here for contact info for your clinical training coordinator. If you don't already have that, might be a good idea to write this information down. So this section 1, this is the responsibilities of everybody. And again, I know I've said this already many times, but students are responsible for reading all sections of this agreement. So please make sure you read every single word. So this is a lot of technical stuff, just kind of going over what exactly is required, what paperwork is required, and what the expectations are of the supervisor, what the expectations are of the trainee. Section 2 is your methods of supervision. So there's a couple different ways you can get supervision. That can be done in person or that can be done on Zoom. It can also be done both ways. Either is fine, but that will be indicated here. Know that this section is a section your supervisor is likely going to fill out for you, but it's important that you understand the information that they're recording here. Something also important for you to make sure you know is the direct observation methods. You will need to be observed multiple times throughout your time in this program. So please make sure that your supervisor marks at least one of these and that you're aware of how to go about obtaining a direct observation at your site. And if you're not sure, feel free to ask your supervisor. Here, there's some sections with some info about termination, contact people at Pepperdine. Section 4 is a place for your supervisor or anybody else at Pepperdine to kind of add some additional information if needed. So please just check if something's written here. If not, feel free to keep moving. Section 5 is terms of the agreement. So this is basically just going to be the dates that you'll be working at your practicum site. So keep that in mind because some sites do have a 1-year contract. Some will contract you throughout your entire time in the program. Just kind of depends. And then section 6, we have a little addendum just about telehealth and kind of how that works. So your supervisor will need to verify that they're good with that. And then at the end, this is where you're going to get all of your signatures. So you'll put your name first, and it's going to go in order. So after you sign, it will then go to the agency director, then it will go to the supervisor, and then it will go to your clinical training coordinator. And when you're ready, feel free to click submit, and you are good to go.